heart passing of the life of Surya, or Buddha who is known to his Buddhist friends. I will say a few words of introduction, and I'd like to say a few personal things as well in my introduction, because I've known Surya Buddha for about 30 years. He was a dear father to 4 children, to Nick, Neely, Andre and Anna, a good friend to his ex-wife Anne, and he had long-standing friends from his time when he worked in the textile industry. Jack is here, and other friends too are here today, and a good number of Buddhist friends, and a few people, Buddhist friends, are here today. And he was loved by many. So today we want to honour the love he had for his family, his friends, and his Buddhist beliefs and practice. He had a long life and he had difficult times, but he had come through these, and he was really proud of his children. He said time and time again to me how glad he was that each had established themselves in substantially and successfully in their own lives. He said this a good number of times, and it gave him deep satisfaction. And the support that each of his family gave over the past years and months showed that they loved him too. It was really very special. And he delighted in his grandchildren. One of the frustrations of him being in the nursing home was that he couldn't see his grandchildren. So the last months have been difficult, very difficult, but it was a great benefit to him that in his last days, Nini, Nick, Andre and Anna were able to spend very precious time with him. I know him as a long-standing friend. He was always welcoming, always sympathetic, always glad to see me. I realised that I've begun to look forward to seeing him the same way that I look forward to seeing my father. And I was really glad that they met. So he had this phrase, "Be at home, man." So this was always on his lips. He said it many times. So, and also today we want to honour his love for Buddha and Buddhism. It was not just a belief, it was part of him. He felt his practice was imperfect, he was quite self-critical, but there was no doubt about how Buddhism was just part of him in a very deep way. So we'll give time to Surya's Buddhist life and practice, and to his family and to friends rejoicing in his qualities. So both of these, his family and his Buddhist practice, were of great importance in his life. And his name, Buddha Prasana, his Buddhist name, meant bright, shining, happy, cheerful Buddha. Prasana that's what that word means. And his name was given him by Padmavajra in 94. He went on a 4-month ordination retreat to Spain. And Padmavajra wrote to me just a few weeks ago to say that they did have contact in the last months. And he said he was very proud to have ordained Surya, who was the first person he ordained. So there's a real strong connection between them. So I have many memories of his bright, smiling, good-humoured and sometimes mischievous smile, very much like the smile on the cover here. And you get this smile after you've been lamenting the states of the world. So we want to celebrate him today. So I'm going to do some Buddhist verses. I'm going to recite a puja, and there was a teaching, a short puja. There was a teaching of the Dhammapada, which is very important to Buddha Prasana. So I'll read a short section from the teaching and just say why he felt it was important, because we often have comments about this particular reading. And then we've got eulogies from Andre, from Mimi, and Anna's going to read a poem, a start poem. And then I will read a poem, This Day Will Pass, by Tagore, a very favourite poem of Suryakant. And then at the end we'll chant a mantra, and also got blessings, which I'll say as we approach those. The mantra was really important to him. It was his favourite mantra, and he specifically asked that we chant this. So, I'll begin by reciting the puja, which is honouring the Buddha. I'll just recite this. We reverence the Buddha and aspire to follow him. The Buddha was born as we are born. What the Buddha overcame, we too can overcome. What the Buddha attained, we too can attain. We reverence the Dharma and aspire to follow it. With body, speech and mind until the end. The truth in all its aspects, the path in all its stages, we aspire to study, practice, realise. We reverence the Sangha and aspire to follow it, the fellowship of those who tread the way, as one by one we make our own commitments. An ever-widening circle, the Sangha grows. Reverencing the Buddha, we offer flowers. Flowers that today are fresh and sweetly blooming. Flowers that tomorrow are fading and falling. Our bodies, too, like flowers, will pass away. Reverencing the Buddha, we offer candles. To him who is the light, we offer light. From his greater lamp, a lesser lamp we light within us. The lamp of Bodhi shining within our hearts. Reverencing the Buddha, we offer incense. Incense whose fragrance pervades the air. The fragrance of the perfect life, sweeter than incense, spreads in all directions throughout the world. So this teaching is from the Dhammapada. Buddha Prasna felt that in its short verses it encapsulated the whole of the Buddhist path. It's about how actions have consequences and how we endeavour to develop a more friendly, kind and open and generous state of mind. And it also shows that what we do in our lives has a consequence, both in this life and from the Buddhist perspective, in the following life. There's a Buddhist teaching of rebecoming, which sometimes is translated as rebirth. And Surya, Buddha Prasna, really was very conscious of the consequences of his actions. In some ways, why he was quite self-critical, because he knew that sometimes he regretted what he did. But his aim was to always do the right thing and to act in generosity and kindness and awareness. And that will have a consequence. He will have a good rebirth. There's no doubt about it. And these verses do encapsulate that teaching. So I'll just read these verses. Our life is shaped by our mind. We become what we think. Suffering follows an evil thought as the wheels of a cart follow the oxen that draw it. Our life is shaped by our mind. We become what we think. Joy follows a pure thought, like a shadow that never leaves. He was angry with me, he attacked me, he robbed me, he defeated me. Those who dwell on such thoughts will never be free from hatred. He was angry with me, he attacked me, he robbed me, he defeated me. Those who do not dwell on such thoughts will surely become free from hatred. For hatred can never be overcome by hatred. Only love can do this. This is an eternal law. People forget lives will end soon. For those who remember, quarrels come to an end. As a strong wind blows down a weak tree, Mara the tempter overwhelms people who, indulging too much and working too little, are caught in the frantic pursuit of pleasure. As the strongest wind cannot shake a mountain, Mara cannot shake those who are committed, energetic and full of faith. Those who recite many teachings but fail to practice them are like a shepherd counting another sheep. They do not share in the joys of the spiritual life. Those who know few teachings and yet practice these teachings, they overcome craving, hatred and ignorance. They live with a pure mind and with wisdom. They share the joys of the spiritual life. So now we're going to recite Buddhist blessings, which are going to we'll send our blessings to Suryakant Kayani. So if you wish, you could repeat each line after me, and then we go on to the eulogies. So we're directing these blessings at Suryakant Kayani. May all blessings be yours.
May all blessings be yours.
May all gods protect you.
May all gods protect you.
By the power of all the Buddhas.
By the power of all the Buddhas.
May all happiness be yours.
May all happiness be yours.
May all blessings be yours.
May all blessings be yours.
May all gods protect you.
May all gods protect you.
By the power of all the Dharmas.
By the power of all the Dharmas.
May all happiness be yours.
May all happiness be yours.
May all blessings be yours.
May all blessings be yours.
May all gods protect you.
May all gods protect you.
By the power of all the Sangha.
By the power of all the Sangha.
May all happiness be yours.
May all happiness be yours.
Our dad, Suryakant Kayani, was born on 15th of June 1928 in Bombay, India, to Kimji and Ratanbai Kayani. He was the fourth of 5 siblings. He had two half-elder brothers and a sister and a younger sister. Dad's father sadly passed away when he was only 3 years old, and he and his younger sister were then brought up by his mother and uncles. Dad was very proud of his father and the achievements he made in his life and how respected he was as a pillar in the Bombay community. Dad enjoyed a happy childhood and told me of many stories about being taken for walks to Chowpatty Beach by the housekeeper's son, Ganga. He also spoke of how the family had loaned their cart on one occasion to Gandhi when he visited Bombay. Dad went to school in Bombay and completed his education. His ambition was to go to medical school, but unfortunately he contracted smallpox and therefore missed out on a place. Instead, he studied law and gained a degree in science and a second one in law, and he later qualified as a barrister. In 1955, with a letter of recommendation from a family friend and an opportunity to study international law, Dad decided to come to the UK to seek a new life. Dad didn't have a lot of money and could only afford a passage on a cargo ship called the Jalakala. The uncomfortable journey through the Suez Canal took several weeks. I recall Dad telling my girls of his delight at seeing dolphins swimming in the sea on his way to the UK. Dad arrived in Liverpool in August 1955 and then made his way to London, where he started working for a company called KT in the textile industry. Life in 1950s England was hard for Dad. He talked a lot about how difficult he found the changing climate and money was tight. He really struggled with the 1950s diet of meat and 2 veg, and soon found culinary happiness in an omelette. After a few years, Dad met Jean and they married in 1960. Soon afterwards, Nicholas was born, and the year after, in 1961, along came Neely. In the early 1960s, Dad's work took him to Manchester. He initially stayed there during the week and commuted home to London at weekends. In 1963, Dad finally decided to move the family to Chorlton in Manchester. Following separation, Dad moved to Stretford and in 1971 married again to Anne. Further children followed, with Andre in 1973 and Anna in 1981. Dad's work took him to many places at home and abroad: Spain, Turkey, Italy and Scandinavia, and many more. He came back with many stories of his travels. I recall him telling me about a time when he visited Germany in the depths of their winter. He was completely unprepared for the snow. He'd only gone in a pair of leather-soled shoes to wear and quickly had to go out and buy boots. The early 1980s brought change for Dad, and with the loss of his job and a further separation, so he took up a new venture and bought a sweet tobacconist shop in Wantage, Oxfordshire, every child's dream. I remember very fondly my visits to Wantage. I would go by bus from Manchester to Oxford, where Dad would pick me up, and I would spend my holidays with him, helping him in the shop. I loved it. I remember that on one occasion, he sent me on an espionage mission around Wantage to spy on the competition to see what price they were selling their products at. When it was time to return to Manchester, my dad would pack me off with bags of every sweet imaginable, which didn't last long when I reached home. After a few years in Wantage, Dad decided he wanted to move back up north. So after a short spell living with Neely in Liverpool, in 1985 he bought the flat, which until recently he still lived in. That same year, Dad started a new job at C.H. Sharp, where he would meet Jack, who would very quickly become one of his best friends. Around the same time, Dad joined the Buddhist community in Manchester, which took him down a very different path, one which led him to make many close friends, some of whom are here today. Dad was ordained into the Buddhist faith in 1994 and took on his new Buddhist name, Buddha Prasna. In 1993, Dad finally retired and went on Buddhist retreats to Wales and Spain, and he also took a trip back to India to see the family in Bombay and Kandwar. He came back complaining it was too hot and busy. Dad regarded all his friends as an extension of his family. We will always be grateful to all of you for the love and support you've shown our Dad over the years. Dad has 7 grandchildren: Carla, Keithy, Rakim, Kadisha, Ava, Freya and Toby, and a great-grandchild, Jake. He loved them all, having them all at his 80th and 90th birthday celebrations. As a family, we were very lucky to have many great memories of time spent with our Dad. Between us, we've spent many an uncomfortable night on the sofa in the sweltering heat of the flat because he didn't like us opening the windows. We are comforted to know that Dad's family in India will pray for him at the temple once it reopens, and we thank you all for the part you played in Dad's life. I'd like to add a message from the Nagli family in India. He brightened our lives like the sun, as his name Suryakant, and may Lord Buddha grant peace to our Buddha Krishna.
Some of my first memories of Dad was from when I was about 4. We lived as a family, me, Nick, Mum and Dad, in a terrace house in Chorlton. At the weekends, Dad would take us for a walk, sometimes to Longford Park, or to see the horse that lived in a field nearby. And on the way home, we would stop at a corner shop to buy Dad's favourite salted peanuts to share with Mum later. My dad could be a funny guy. He once told me off for eating an apple core with the pips as a tree might go in my tummy. And one morning when I couldn't find the sweets from the day before, he said it was because my toys must have eaten them in the night. When we were a little older, Nick and I lived with Mum, and he would come every weekend and take us out, maybe to the cinema where we saw Fantasia and Dr. Dolittle, or just back to his house in Stretford. Dad would make a big batch of what he called badgers, sliced potatoes deep fried in spicy batter. We'd put them all on a big newspaper and bring them upstairs to the front room where we'd sit on the floor and eat them with tomato ketchup and watch TV. Later, when Dad got his first car, a VW Beetle, he would take us out for the day. He would throw us a road map and tell us to choose where he wanted to go, and then write all the numbers in order on a piece of paper. We would set off, stopping at a mini market on the way to buy apples, crisps, Coke for a picnic. And when we arrived at our destination, places like St Anne's or Tatton Park, we'd eat our food whilst Dad read his newspaper and smoked a cigarette. And then he would tell us to go and play whilst he lay down for a nap with the newspaper in his face. My dad was magic too. He could coax a peacock to open its tail and display its colourful feathers. He demonstrated his power on several occasions on visits to zoos and country houses, and he said it was because he was Indian and that peacocks understood his special words. He also told me that he was a Red Indian chief, but I didn't really believe that as he didn't own a feather headdress. I remember that Dad always smelled faintly of Old Spice and cigarettes, and his face was prickly like a hedgehog. He said that his skin had been affected by having smallpox when he was young, and that's why he had a stubbly chin. He explained that he didn't get a smallpox injection when he was a child because he had cried when his mum took him to get it, and that when he became sick with the illness as a teenager, their family dog, who they had taken in as a stray, refused to leave his bedside until he was out of danger. I like to hear the stories of India, about the Muslim family who looked after him after his father died. Apparently the ladies and girls would make a fuss of him because he was so handsome. When he was in his late teens, he went with friends to a rally to hear Gandhi speak, and they found themselves swept along by the crowd at one point, and they found themselves only a few feet away from Gandhi himself. He said that he would always remember that moment. He talked of his passage by ship to the UK, docking Liverpool and travelling by train to London for the first time with a letter of introduction and a phone number. He lived for a time in a one-bedroom bedsit with his friend Chance, where they cooked baked beans with curry powder on a single wood stove. And later he moved in with a kind Polish couple, Mimi and Colonel. Mimi would later insist that he drank a pint of milk every day as he was so thin that she was worried he wouldn't survive the winter.
This is a poem that Dad wrote for me and left for me to open. Letter to Anna and others. I've searched it is one day, these eyes will close forever. Stars will twinkle, moon will shine, curlew will fly, all will be the same, yet I will not be. From the beginning I was not, and in the end I shall not be. So weep not, my child. Mine and thy lineage is high, and we were forged in the stars. To the stars one day we shall return. Every time you look at the star, think of me. I shall be there. We will but communicate silently. Remember, life is but to love and give, and again, to give and love. That is all. Dad.
Thank you for those wonderful reminiscences. I didn't know that your dad had written that. Yeah, it's really good. So thank you very much. He taught me how to cook Indian cooking. One of the main tricks was not to add any additional water, and that was a real kind of eye-opener. I could actually begin to cook curries. So we used to cook whenever we used to go around, really, and we spend the time cooking and eating. So I learned a great deal from him. And some of those stories I'm familiar with, but not in the right order, and all the delightful things. Thank you. So I'm going to read a poem now, which was a real favourite poem. And I've got a copy of this with his handwritten message to be read at my funeral, given to me 5 years ago, 2015. So it's by Tagore, a Bengali poet who won the Nobel Prize for Literature at that turn of the century. I know this day will pass. This day will pass. That one day, someday, the dim sun with tender smiling will look into my face, looking his last farewell. Beside the way the flute will sound, the kine will graze on the riverbank, the children will play in the courtyards, the birds will sing on. Yet this day will pass, this day will pass. This is my prayer to thee, that ere I go, I may learn why the green earth, lifting our eyes to the sky, called me to her. Why the silence of the night told me of the stars. Why the day's glory raised waves in my soul. This is my prayer to thee. When the earth's revolutions for me are ended, in the finishing of my song, let me pause a moment, that I may fill my basket with the flowers and fruits of the 6 seasons. In the light of this life, I may see thee in going, that I may garland thee in going, with the garland from my own throat, when earth's revolutions for me are ended. So we'll conclude with a mantra, which I will begin and sing with you. If you want to join me. Sabe Sata Sukhi Hontu. It means may all beings be well, may all beings be happy. And he specifically asked for this mantra to be chanted too. And then we'll end with a very special piece of music. Sabe Sata Sukhi Hontu. 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 Sabe Sata Sukhi Hontu.